Imagine waking up one morning and realizing your entire life savings can no longer buy even a loaf of bread. Your salary is still the same, your bank balance is still there, but suddenly your money has become almost worthless. This may sound impossible, but it has already happened multiple times in modern history. Countries have watched their currencies collapse almost overnight. And the reason behind many of these disasters is surprisingly simple: printing too much money. But if governments can just print money, why doesn't every country simply print billions and eliminate poverty? Well, the answer reveals one of the most dangerous economic traps in our history. Most people believe money is backed by gold or physical reserves. But in modern economies, that's not entirely true. Most countries operate on fiat currency, meaning money has value simply because governments say it does. Central banks like the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank control how much money exists in the economy. When governments face crises, wars, recessions, or massive debt, they sometimes increase the money supply. This process is often called money printing, although today it is mostly done digitally. In moderation, it can stimulate the economy, but when done excessively, it can trigger a financial catastrophe. When more money enters an economy, something subtle begins to happen. Prices start rising. This is known as inflation. At first, inflation may seem harmless. If prices rise slowly, it can even help economic growth. But when governments print far more money than the economy produces in goods and services, the balance breaks. Suddenly, there is too much money chasing too few products. And when that happens, prices don't just rise, they explode. One of the most famous examples happened after World War I. In the early 1920s, Germany began printing massive amounts of currency to pay war debts and government expenses. What followed became known as Weimar Hyperinflation. At first, prices doubled, then they doubled again. Soon, inflation spiraled completely out of control. People needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy bread. Workers were paid twice a day because their wages lost value within hours. In some cases, children used stacks of banknotes as toys. Money had become cheaper than paper. Germany's economy was collapsing in real time. Hyperinflation isn't just a historical curiosity. It has happened again in modern times. In the 2000s, Zimbabwe experienced one of the worst currency collapses in our history. The crisis became known as the Zimbabwe Hyperinflation. The government printed increasingly larger banknotes, millions, then billions, then trillions of dollars. Eventually, Zimbabwe released a $100 trillion banknote. Imagine that. And yet, the note could barely buy basic groceries. The currency became so worthless that the country eventually abandoned it entirely. Another recent example occurred in South America. During the 2010s, Venezuela faced economic collapse and began printing massive amounts of money to cover government spending. This triggered the Venezuelan hyperinflation. Inflation reached levels so extreme that prices sometimes doubled within weeks. Shops struggled to keep food on shelves. Millions of people fled the country in search of stability. Once again, a nation discovered the devastating consequences of uncontrolled money printing. So if printing too much money is so dangerous, why do governments keep doing it? Because in the short term, it feels like an easy solution. Printing money can temporarily pay debts, stimulate growth, and prevent financial collapse. But if done recklessly, it becomes a ticking time bomb. Today, central banks around the world carefully manage inflation to avoid repeating these disasters. But history shows that economic crisis, political pressure, and massive debt can sometimes push governments towards risky decisions. And when that happens, entire economies can unravel. Money feels permanent. We trust that the numbers in our bank accounts will hold value tomorrow, next year, and decades into the future. But history tells a very different story. Currencies have collapsed, savings have vanished, and entire financial systems have been rebuilt from nothing. All because of one simple mistake: printing too much money. The real question isn't whether it has happened before. The real question is, could it happen again?